Yes, it is Kody Epps time right now in Studio B alongside Dave McCann. I'm Spencer Linton. Let's welcome in one of those standout BYU receivers and what we believe is the deepest position group on this Cougar football squad, the wide receivers. Kody Epps is with us. Kody, welcome back, man. Football right around the corner. How you feeling?
Excited. I can't stop thinking about it. I'm so, I can't even put it into words how just geared up and ready I am to go.
Describe it compared to how you felt just before your first Pop Warner season, your high school season, your BYU debut. Now coming back healthy after a season where you were disappointed physically.
Yeah.
You know, I would think you're just ready to go nuts.
Yeah. I haven't had the chance to think about it like that, but I'm glad that you said that because that's exactly how I feel. Like the day before your first Pop Warner game, like having my pads. I used to sleep in my pads. I was sleeping in my helmet. Like that's how I feel right now. That's like the best comparison. So
yeah,
I'm so excited.
That's classic.
Yeah.
Outstanding. We were just talking about our top 3 storylines going into BYU football training camp. Obviously, the quarterback battle is atop the list. We're excited to see the revamped offensive line as they're coached by TJ Woods.
Yep.
The running back battle. There are a bunch of guys coming back from notable injuries that are going to play a significant role this year, too. So, I mean, that said, for you, what's the number one storyline you're taking with you into BYU football training? What are you watching for, Kody?
I'm watching for how well we gel together as a team going into the season because we have so much talks about us, our record, what our record's going to be, if we're going to have any stars to be able to play in this conference, how we're going to do. Do we have the capabilities of doing it at a high level? So I'm just excited to see how the team comes together and makes things happen so that we can, prove ourselves right and just block out all the noise.
We won't ask you to tell us who you think should start at quarterback. You've been catching their passes all summer. We know they've been working with John Beck.
Yeah.
We understand from you and your teammates that they have both developed really, really well. Is this a completely wide open quarterback battle starting this week?
I would imagine so. Our coaches haven't named a starter. We don't have a starter yet. So I would imagine it's up for grabs for whoever, our coaches and the team believes the guy is going to be that first day. But the thing I love about both the guys and every single guy in the room is that at the end of the day, they know that the competition only breeds greatness for everyone, So none of the quarterbacks are down and out, that they're not in the polls or where they want to be at the moment. Everybody's just excited to make plays and do what they have to do so the team can be successful. And that's the overall arching goal, is what the team can do. And I think everybody's bought into that mindset rather than being selfish and all about, am I going to be the one playing? Am I going to be the one out there? So I'm excited for that.
Kody Epps is on BYU Sports Nation, standout receiver for the Cougars. He's back. He's healthy. He's excited.
Yes.
Clearly, he may sleep in his football pads.
Yeah.
Now, helmet might be a little uncomfortable, Kody.
Yeah.
A little kink in the neck there.
Yeah, I know. Shoot. It's better to get used to it now, though, because that first day at camp, your neck the next morning is always wonky when you wake up.
That additional weight that you carried up there for sure. Okay, a few more questions about the quarterback scenario. People don't know a lot about Gary Bohannan. And, I mean, understandably, because he's been injured, he hasn't started a game in quite a while, a year and a half. But you've been throwing with him specifically. How have you seen him advance, and what makes you encouraged that Gary is getting back to full health? And if he is the guy, he could lead you to great things.
Yeah. I think he definitely has all the qualities that you want as a quarterback: strength, speed, can throw the ball. He does all the things right when you talk about a quarterback. But I think the thing that sets Gary apart just as a man is as a leader. He's definitely a leader, and he's made a tremendous impact coming in here in unfamiliar territory for him. And then, just us looking at a guy that we've played against twice in 2 different scenarios, for him to come in and immediately implement himself into the locker room, into the teammates around him, that's definitely something that I'm looking at. And I'm so appreciative to be locker buddies with him and to have him in the room with us and to be able to go out there and do PRPs and practice with, because just the way he approaches life, the way he approaches the game kind of, sets him apart just in total as just a player on the football team, no matter his position, no matter where he lines up, So I think that's something that I really love about him, and I'm so happy and blessed to be around, and I can't wait to see it come to fruition on the field.
His shoulder 100%? Is he throwing at 100%?
Yes, he can zip the ball. His deep ball is pretty. He can throw it all across the middle. He can make those far outside throws. That's what we've been really just dialing in this whole offseason, those out routes when it comes to he's on the opposite hash and we need to get it all the way out there. Gary can do that.
One thing Jake told us, which I thought was interesting, because there's not a quarterback coach on the staff. And the offensive coordinator didn't play quarterback. At quarterback you. And I thought, once we started thinking about that, we thought, why not? I wonder why that's the case. But then he said, but Gary is like a quarterback coach to him.
Yeah.
He can come off and say, hey, what did you see? And bounce those things off, which any young quarterback really needs.
Yep.
And so it was interesting to see how they complement each other, even right away, competing for the same job. And whether or not Jake can bounce back from his 4-game performance last year. He had a strong spring, and he's eager as well to get out there and prove that. But I thought it was interesting how Gary, whether he's on the field or off, can really help the quarterback position by what he brings.
Yeah, I think that kind of shows you both aspects of them and their greatness. I think Jake is a guy who approaches the game the right way. He is always trying to learn. He's always trying to develop. He's always trying to hear how he can be better, how he can strengthen his game. And then Gary, like, he has a son at the end of the day. And anybody that has a kid has to have selflessness. There comes a point where, like, it's more about family and more about what the family is trying to accomplish rather than what you're trying to accomplish. So for Gary, like you said, to be able to show Jake some of the things that some of his shortcomings and be able to tell him not to do this or to do this or to look out for this, for him to be able to do that in the midst of competition, it just shows and proves that how great of a man he is, how great of a leader that I was just speaking about. So,
Kody, along with your improving health and feeling better, how else has this offseason been different compared to last offseason now that you're going into year 2 of the Big 12?
I believe that majority, I don't know the numbers-wise of who transferred in last year and left, but I think majority of the guys that did transfer in that had an impact stayed another year. So to be able to have that extra time, spending time with those dudes going bowling or going golfing or just hanging around, I think that type of stuff makes a big difference, especially now in today's culture of transferring, and you got dudes that are in and out every single year. To be able to have some guys that are still here with us.
Feels like the majority of the core is back.
Yes. So, and everybody has matured, whether that's the weight room, whether that's in the playbook, whether that's as a person, everybody has taken that next step. So allowing that to gel and kind of work itself out together has been something pretty cool to watch. And I think it's been definitely different for me now that I've been around the block a couple times and to see everybody kind of come together and work together.
We saw what you could do against Arkansas and Notre Dame. Last year, banged up, 21 catches, didn't get to the end zone. That was not the Kody Epps that's sitting next to us. Played 8 games, so you missed 4 due to health. What did the disappointment of all that teach you about yourself that can make a springboard for a comeback season for you?
Yeah, I think I talked to my dad about this a lot. Like, I didn't have the season that I wanted per se, and on a spectrum of what I want to accomplish in my life, I didn't, that wasn't what I wanted to put out there and on the field. But playing a lot of golf this offseason has shown me a lot. And one of my posts after the Oklahoma game was just keep going. I think Dory's line of just keep swimming and having the ability to pursue and just keep pushing no matter the circumstances that you're dealt with. And I think, like I said, like playing golf this offseason has allowed me to understand, like, every shot that you set yourself up with, it should happen for a reason. It's all situation-based, and it's all for you to learn and scope out the land, scope out where you are, scope out your lie, scope out if you're in the rough and if you're in the fairway, scope out what's the lie of the green. And I think that comes into life as well. Like, having what I had in those setbacks last season, still having to push through and set up for my next shot and not think about necessarily what happened, but how I can make my circumstances better. I think that definitely has, helped my perspective going into this season, because I don't want to have a season like that again ever in life, but it happens.
And when you're hurt, it's got to be the worst, because physically you can't do it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm happy it happened. I'm blessed that it happened. I think those type of things, when I'm 40 years old, when I'm 50 years old, I'm going to be able to look back on those adversities and be able to pinpoint and say, okay, I had to get through that. How can I use that for the circumstances that I'm in right now?
It's our first Finding Nemo reference.
Listen, I'm all about object lessons. I love Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. Yes, we might as well just call it the parable of the lynx.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good.
Let's go, Kody.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you brought that to us. All right, a couple of quick hitters to close out. Who's a wide receiver in the room right now that we're not talking about that you believe we will be talking about by the end of the season?
I think we talk about kind of everyone. So I'm gonna give one that might shock some ears. I think Prince Zombo is a really good football player.
Okay.
He's really young. He's a little bit naive at times. He can be, stuck in his own mind sometimes because he's just a young kid, just coming up here. But I think Prince Zombo has a bunch of qualities that can make him a really good football player, a really good receiver. And then everybody else, I think we talk about a lot.
Let's go.
All right, let's make a note of that one.
Okay, second quick hitter. What's the most effective play to use with you in the play on EA Sports College Football 25?
I'm going to disappoint a lot of people when I say this. I have not played with myself in the game yet. I have not played with myself. So I've played the game I walked in my cousin Dylan Flowers' room and I played 2 plays when he was playing with, I think, Toledo, or he was playing with some random team, and I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do the sports games. But what I would imagine is all my teammates have been telling me my player's super quick and he's super fast in the game.
Jet sweep?
Yes. No, not jet sweep. They say that the out route, a quick 5-yard out, always works.
Unbeatable with Kody Epps on the quick out?
So I would probably go with that. Yeah. If I was A-Rod in NCAA.
That's what you'd be calling.
Go with the quick outs.
Yeah.
Maximize the speed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cody, great stuff. We appreciate you coming in to hang out with us in Studio B.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you, man. We're giving you all the BYU Sports Nation good karma we can muster up.
Thank you.
Go have a great season.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
See you at practice this week. How about that?
Yes, I know. I'm so excited.